except...
Good.
Hello, darling. I can see you look a bit of a silhouette there.
Yes. Best way to see me.
There's Kerry.
Spaghetti house. Spaghetti.
You recognise it, Kerry, do you? Spaghetti house?
Yeah. And next to that is Galileo's.
Oh, you do know your London well.
We just passed Eros.
Galileo's, actually. I can't read.
Galileo.
Lost the wine exam. Blur in your vision. Yeah. The Majesty's Theatre. Phantom of the Opera's showing at the moment.
Really?
Is it?
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
What on this side? Let me have a look on this side.
This is Haymarket.
Turkish Airlines.
Can't see any hay anywhere.
Yeah. There's lovely lights.
Lights.
Lights over here.
Too late to go.
Oh, how about you?
Oh, you missed.
It's probably making you feel sick.
Getting dizzy here, yeah.
Oh, there's a fountain on your...
Is that Nelson's column?
Yeah. But it's
Nelson's column rod.
It's behind scaffolding, so you can't see it very well.
I'm afraid this camera doesn't shoot through ceilings. It goes through glass.
Cleopatra's Needle.
No, that's Nelson's column. He's up the top, see?
You've got X-ray vision then.
Where is old Nelson?
And they're up there, darling.
Where he is? Yeah, there he is. That's what this is.
There's the fountain.
Yeah.
I remember walking across this bridge when I came to London on a work trip once.
Where's all the pigeons gone?
Well, they're
There he is.
there,
Up
doinking
his
on
column
people's
again.
heads.
Oh, really?
Oh, you lost your seat.
Oh, who's that guy then? Well, get him.
Oh, here comes the bus.
It's good cutaway stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I don't know who he
Lots
is,
of
but
editing to do later on.
there's somebody standing there looking a bit fed up with it all.
This is Parliament Square, by the way.
Yeah. I think when I was flung on the floor just now, the camera was still running, so
That should be amusing.
that should be a good shot. Yeah.
That's why I went to the trip. It was down that road, down there. Halfway to heaven.
It's still running as good as well.
Just like a theatre.
I know, it's like try those. Move it around. Oh yeah. Black light.
This is the same thing as well. It's a bit different, is it? Just as one, that's the first bit, and that's the second
You
one.
don't make a bad kaleidoscope, what?
Yeah,
Oh, that's good, isn't it? Yeah.
best way to look at me.
There's Kerry. Oh yes.
Oh, you've got the music box. Do you remember you got those with the children pair.
Yeah.
See, the music boxes.
They loved those, didn't they?
Yeah.
I bought them for yours, didn't I?
Yeah,
Because I
it
had
was
one.
you.
And Kieran, was it Kieran or Jade?
Jade.
loved it?
Well, they both had one.
I bet she knows would like one of those.
She would. For Christmas.
She doesn't know what she wants. Is there anything cute? Or are they all clowns?
There's
Where is this music box?
there's this one on the end which has
Fair,
got
look.
like rabbits on.
Oh, that one.
Remember they dance?
Yeah. There's a carousel that's rather nice there.
And there's a teddyish sort of one on the end too.
We don't have anything like that.
Nothing with fairies on.
No.
You've grown very small, children.
Oh, look at put your head in it. My hair's a bit of a mess up. Oh, yeah, that's right.
You've grown very small, my loves. Have you been eating that magic cake again?
I've been on a diet.
Oh, a little.
I can't see my ears, boys.
Can you pick your nose?
Who said they wanted to think it?
Pick both my nostrils.
because I've got the bag open at the moment.
No.
They're going to kill you with their top
They're rubbish. You want to support a good team like Arsenal?
Yeah, what team should he wear?
Arsenal, you've got to wear Arsenal.
Get an Arsenal special.
While in London.
You don't know, actually.
Looks like a wedding, doesn't
Well, that's
it?
what we wondered.
It does look like a wedding.
So it's best if we got here like about 11 or 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Say it's going to take the train from our street.
Why? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So you remember Rod as a child, Roderick?
Not a child. I met him once.
Anyway, you're just going to... Yes, there's a very nice cloakroom there. Can we leave our coats? Yes, to the right, yes. To the right, yes. And then I'll see you again. Yes.
Well, we've got these photographs at home, haven't we?
Yeah.
I just wondered which one we were descended from.
I rather think it's the one on the right, I think, at the bottom. I'm not sure, but I think so. Him, I believe.
This
yeah.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, well, your head's in the way, but I think... lovely shot of your head. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that one, I think. But I wouldn't be certain about it.
They're all Charles and Dave.
Jane Fisher, 1845.
It's a few years.
Sonia Fisher, 2001. Can you see the family resemblance? The nose and chin are exact.
You're a Geordie, they seem to have arrived there.
There's no way I'm trying to change.
Who is this one we're looking at, Kerry?
It's Laura Olcock, who is Mrs. David Fisher.
David Fisher.
So it's his wife, I suppose, is it?
Family resemblance.
I knew the local inhabitants, you do recall. And I can also recall it seemed to be a very narrow entry. I thought I might have some sort of elaborate gubbins machinery, and I committed the cardinal sin of not checking up on the Getty before we get there. So all the stuff that we built and put on the back of an RAF truck. I just got about this, but anyway, Hemmings was the business brains, and he had decided it was okay to do. After the Tavern Brawl, when he gets stabbed, he was about 24, I think, quite young, and dies. Daddy says, "Can I have the shares back, please?" And Thomasina said, "No, Daddy, you gave them to me." Now, that was a very brave thing for a young lady to do.
Sounds my type of person.
Well, yes. Anyway, it went to court. There's a famous court case where it was Hemmings versus Thomasina. The rest is all fine.
Stage one. The Fishers were architects. You have a legend of how you work here.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got it. I'm trying to get Derek, but... Oh, I got him. Oh, it's too close. Oh, I got it. I don't know if you want Derek on your video. Derek Wilton from Coronation Street.
Where's he gone?
The world's famous fishers. Out of focus.
But I'm not much of an actor. But my husband was in television. Now, Kerry, he's in amateur dramatics. And she's got a son, Kieran, who is...
Sean's quite, my son's quite good at acting, you know, at school. He's only 13 now, but he's like, you know, really good in his school plays and he's got a lovely voice, but I feel like they get too self-conscious, don't they, nowadays, to act, really.
Are you still based in Norfolk, Suffolk?
No, this is the Fisher Price.
No, we ended up in...
I think the white wine's nicer.
Then from London we went to Bristol in Wales.
To do his speech and things.
Is Dad making a speech then?
No, he's going to be called, he's going to, this looks really blurry to me. It's not your line.
She's had to
wine like that. Is it autumn? I better tell Dad about that.
Is there a focus on
It
it?
looks really blurry.
No, it focuses itself.
It doesn't
If
look...
it's blurry, it's because there's not enough light. It's an idiot-proof one. That's why Dad got it.
Yeah, but I mean, look.
It's got nothing to do with Fisher Price, that's why.
It looks blurry.
Maybe
Maybe it's like itself when it's I could try doing this. Did you see that
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure.
about writers when
Mum was brought. We brought our children up.
The artist also takes on the vision repainted scene.
The London and American Stage. I would just like to say a few quick thank yous to museum staff who helped with this exhibition, including the V&A printers and conservation department, our exhibition team, Victoria Brooks, Deborah Ashford, Anne Hayho, Frank Pink and Cathy Hale, who is also responsible for the delicious food, and our marketing department, Sue Rolfe, Caroline Melbourne, Keith Lodwick and Dawn Aldridge. Lastly, I want to say a very special thank you to Caroline Fisher-Carver and the Fisher family for so generously presenting their archive to the nation. The Theatre Museum is absolutely thrilled to have this uniquely rich and important collection which can now be studied and enjoyed by all in perpetuity. So it's now my pleasure to introduce David Fisher-Shaw, who will speak on behalf of the Fisher family.
Lord Leicester, Lady Leicester, ladies and gentlemen, as a descendant of the Fisher family and bearing the name of David Fisher, I feel very privileged to be here this evening. It's a great pleasure for us to be here to mark the opening of the Lamplit Stage and to see many items with which we are familiar so beautifully displayed. I want to say how absolutely delighted we are that the Fisher collection now has a place at the Theatre Museum. It's been passed down and treasured through many generations and was initially researched by Ruth Carver, great-great-great-granddaughter of David Fisher I. I hope I got that right. Ruth and her husband, James Carver, collected and archived much of the Charles Fisher material, and in doing so, James presented a paper to the Norwich Science Gossip Club in 1909, which is an excellent source of information. The collection passed down to Caroline Fisher-Carver, who is with us this evening, and who has generously gifted it to the Theatre Museum. It was not, however, until Moira and Jonathan Field, with Elizabeth Grice, I don't think she's here tonight, recognise the significance. She's here. Ah, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. There she is, Elizabeth. Recognise the significance of of the history of provincial and current and circuit theatre, and Moira became its honorary curator. That he began to assume a real identity. Moira's unquenchable enthusiasm for the Fishers over more than 25 years, I think, researching, lecturing, enhancing and drawing the collection has transformed what was well loved but fragmented family memorabilia into a fascinating and meaningful record of the Fishers and their place in theatre history. Quite simply, without Moira, there would be no collection, in the true sense. And her name, I am sure, will always be associated with it. My mother, Catherine Shaw, better known as Kitty Shaw, great-great-great-granddaughter of David Fisher, that's my mother, collected a sizable part of the David Fisher memorabilia, and she was very proud of her ancestors. Sadly, she died last year before arrangements for the transfer to the Theatre Museum were made. But I know that she especially would be delighted that, having toured the native East Anglia, the collection she has cherished is now in the safekeeping of the museum, where it will continue to be seen, cared for and made accessible. Thank you, Dr. Fowler, for all you have done on our behalf. This is an occasion we shall long remember, and we are so grateful to you and to everyone who has helped to make it so. Thank you very much. I'll call on Moira, who hardly needs an introduction to most of you, I'm sure, to say a few words about the Fisher collection. Thank you, Moira. Moira Field.
Tell me if you can't hear. Should it be a bit lower? Well, it's very rash. Thank you. It's very rash to start me on the Fishers, particularly if you have trains to catch. However, tonight there's only one thing on my mind, and that is the amazing, but in retrospect, absolutely inevitable way in which the collection and all of us have come together here in the Theatre Museum tonight. It began, as far as I'm concerned, 25 years ago, when my husband, my late husband Jonathan, and Elizabeth Grice and I sat round Kitty Shaw's dining table in the middle of Gloucestershire with Caroline Fisher Carver, and they put in front of us paper parcels and boxes, and we opened them, we unpacked them, and out came the most amazing things, glorious things, some of which you've seen tonight on those boards. And we were absolutely amazed and excited. And we all agreed, Kitty and Caroline as well as we three agreed, that they should never go under wraps again. And when I say wraps, I don't just mean they shouldn't go back on top of the wardrobe. I mean they shouldn't go into acid-free boxes in somebody's archives. They must be seen, enjoyed by people. And so it was. Astonishingly enough, 2 years later, a newly formed arts centre at Wells next to the sea, a remote corner of Norfolk, had the exhibition, more or less, well, not as big as it is now, but more or less as it is arranged now, on permanent display. And And since then, it has never actually gone away. It's always been there for the public to look at somewhere or other. Now, then, in those days, it was at Wells, based on the Arts Centre, and I used to take it on tour. I used to take it round to the various old circuit towns where the Fishers themselves had played. I took it to Thetford, I remember. I think that was the first one. And the Thetford Museum is just opposite the old theatre, the facade of which still remains. And I remember vividly that occasion because I was to give a talk on one of the evenings when it was there, and there was a power cut. So it was all wonderfully appropriate. The whole thing took place in candlelight. Not even lamps, just candles. Anyway, that went very well. It wasn't quite so romantic at North Walsham, when I spoke actually in the theatre, which by then had become a sales room for domestic equipment. And I remember giving my talk there with my notes resting delicately on a lavatory lid. Oh, and there were other places too. But I had a regular summer date. Every summer, I took it to Holcombe Hall, nearby, the family seat of Lord Leicester. And on one of these occasions, when it was at Holcombe, it happened to be to coincide with the closing of this Wells Centre. And so I went to Lord Leicester and I said, please, can I keep it here, not just in the summer? And he let me. And it stayed there most appropriately in the servants' dining hall, an enormous great place with a lovely great oak table on which it was arranged. And it stayed there for 8 years, I think, and it was wonderful. And I must say that when I used to go up there through the park to go and look after it, I used to be reminded of the Fishers, who must have gone up there at some time in the past to collect the money when Lord Leicester and his Countess had been to the play. So it stayed there for quite some time. But in the end, it had to move from there as well. And it went to the University of East Anglia. But there was an interim period when it had to live in my bedroom. But even then, it was on public display in a sense. There was an American... There was an American scholar called Tracy Davis who wanted to see it, and so she had a very happy day in my bedroom with her little laptop and sitting on one bed and looking at the stuff on the other. She was very pleased with that. But as I say, then we found it its new home. We were offered a new home at the University of East Anglia. And there I was given wonderful support and help by Deirdre Sharp, who is here tonight, their archivist, who helped me to re-hang it, because by then I'd taken it around to so many places in the back of my hatchback that it was getting a little bit sort of, scruffy. So she helped me to recover the boards and put it all up again anew. And there it was at the University of East Anglia, where lots of people saw it. It had its little room, and students went and read there and looked at it and so on. But then last year, unfortunately, the university was no longer able to have room to keep the room for it. And so we had to move again. And then, I'm not sure whether it wasn't really rather a mistake on my part, I asked Jim Fowler for advice. Well, you know what advice he gave me, don't you? So, I think he quite honestly said he didn't know anywhere else in East Anglia where it could go, but the inevitable corollary of that was that it ought to come here. And so, of course, it should. And here it is, and that's wonderful. Now, that's the recent history of it. But it began a long time before that. Now, you've heard a little bit from David about his, what did she know? It's Caroline's grandmother, Ruth Carver, who collected it together, brought the different branches of the family together and extorted, perhaps the right word, their cherished heirlooms from them in order to make them available, which she did, to Jack Mitchley when he had an exhibition of East Anglian theatre in the Castle Museum at Norwich in 1950. So she had already begun this process. But we can go back beyond that. I think of the second Charles Fisher, who throughout 40 years of the 19th century played in New York. He was a leading figure on the New York stage. And I think of him collecting those playbills, 200 of them. And I think of him taking them week by week when he was at Burton's, and then he was at Wallack's, and then he was at Daly's, taking them and putting them on the spike. And I know he did that because the holes are still there. And if you look at the ones on the board, some of them are exhibited, you'll see they all have a little hole in exactly the same place at the top. Conservation departments, please note they are not to be repaired. They're part of the history. At the same time as he was playing in New York, his cousin, the second David Fisher, had an equally successful career in London. And I think of him sticking into his book of press notices a little old playbill of about 1821, I think, which had been given him by a playgoer. He writes underneath, this had just been given to him by a playgoer who'd been present at that performance in Dereham when David Fisher III's father, David Fisher II, had had a benefit performance, and he himself had made his first appearance on any stage dancing a hornpipe. And most significantly for us this evening, he writes also there, this is the oldest bill in my collection. So he'd also started. But it may have been the oldest bill in his collection, but it wasn't by any means the oldest bill that had been collected, because somebody in Bungay, we don't know who it was, we don't even know the name of this person, from 1794 till 1811 went to every performance of the Fishers when they came once every 2 years, biannual performances, stayed for 2 months, did 30, 40 plays. He went to all of them, he collected every playbill, he sewed them together in neat little bundles, listed the cast, the members of the company each season, and annotated the bills. And then disappeared. And so did these bills, until a theatre historian found them, bought them, and gave them to Ruth Carver. And so they've come into the family collection. But who he was, we have no idea, but he did it. And that isn't the first thing either. But from my point of view, they were the earliest bills. But going back in the family a bit, I think of the first the first Charles Fisher, who assisted his father, David Fisher I, in the management. The day after his father died, he took the 2 quill pens, the equivalent of biros in those days, nothing special about them. He took the 2 that his father had been using when he died, wrapped them in a little bit of paper, and said, these quills were used by my father the week before he died. And they're still here, they're still around. But that's not the real beginning. The real beginning is in that case over there. It is over there, isn't it? A little seal, a red sulphur, an impression of a seal, showing Garrick and the shade of Shakespeare, it says. Now that belonged to David Fisher I. He bought it in London when he was in his teens. He was about 16 or 17 when Garrick died. But somehow he managed to get himself to London and saw what must have been the last performances that Garrick gave. And he must have bought that, which was a sort of spin-off from Garrick's Shakespeare industry, which he was getting going at the time, if you remember, and there was still some around. He bought one, and he brought it back with him as a memento. Now, seeing Garrick seems to have been enchantment for David Fisher. I don't know whether he was stage struck before, but he was afterwards for the rest of his life. And he took his little seal and kept it with him as a sort of talisman. Now, the reason I know that it was Garrick that started it with him is because an old friend of the family, writing after David Fisher's death, when he himself was quite old, said, "When I was a little boy, old Fisher used to take me on his knee and extol to me the glories of Garrick. And he has also, in my presence, imitated the style of that great man, both in tragedy and comedy." Well, there's no arguing with that, is there? So, the provenance of the collection starts in that case. That is the beginning of it all.
Thank you very much, Laura. Finally, I'm delighted to welcome our guest of honour this evening, Lord Leicester, who I'll now call upon as patron of the Fisher collection to say a few words. Thank you, Lord Leicester.
I come out a little bit garbled. First of all, can I say how very glad I am to be invited here tonight? Because if I hadn't have been invited, I would never have known of the existence of this little gem of a theatre museum. And it's absolutely fabulous. Now, we've just been taken on a tour by Jim Fowler, and I'm astonished by what is here. And we are going to come back pretty soon and spend at least half a day here. I may be particularly unobservant, I suppose, but you know, I've never seen any reference at all to this museum anywhere. I've never seen it advertised. And I'm actually now not surprised, because I hear it's an outstation of the great V&A. Now, I think the V&A is a most marvellous place, but they are absolutely appalling at promoting themselves, or indeed their outstations. But I hope very much that with the new director, Mark Jones, who I think is in post already, and with the opening of the British galleries, which I think are being opened today, and I hear are absolutely stupendous, this will give them a new pride and a new direction, and I jolly well hope that they start promoting places like this, because it's absolutely fabulous. In 1828, 16th of August 1828, comedian David Fisher, for the servants attending the play bespoke by Mr. and Lady Anne Cook, £10. Now, I might just explain the Mr. because I've just told you that he was the first Earl of Leicester, but in fact he was a commoner until he was created Earl of Leicester by Queen Victoria in 1837, the first year of her reign. It was rather interesting, just as a by-note. He was a very staunch Whig, a great friend of Charles James Fox, and he refused to accept a peerage as long as there was a Tory administration in government. And he waited until the Whig administration of Lord Melbourne came in 1837, and then he said, "All right, do it." But it's interesting here, comedian David Fisher, for the servants attending, and that's an interesting and rather nice social commentary, isn't it? Because obviously Mr. Cook and his wife, Lady Anne, decided it would be a jolly nice thing for their servants to go to the theatre. £10, quite a lot of money, I suppose. And then there's another one on the 24th of September 1832. Mr. Fisher, for 6 box tickets for the play, 18 shillings. Now that's 3 shillings each. Now I actually remember not long ago one used to pay 3 shillings for the cinema, and that's what, I don't know, 30 years ago. Or I don't know. And so really it seems to me really quite expensive. Then on the 16th of April 1844, by this time my great-great-grandfather was the Earl of Leicester, to comedian George Fisher for the Earl and Countess of Leicester and the servants attending Wells Theatre, the 12th instance, £10. And then the last entry, rather sad, rather poignant, in 1844, which is when the recession caused the demise of the theatre company and they had to pack up. and here it is here. 17th of May 1844, donation. George Fisher, a donation by order of the Earl of Leicester, £20. So obviously the Earl of Leicester, after a lifetime of friendship with the Fisher family, decided that he would at least help to relieve their, what must have been undoubted poverty, just a little bit. So that's rather sad. But that is why I am here tonight, due to our family association, and I'm delighted to be here. And as we heard, it's due to the great generosity now of the Fisher family that their collection is here, and I can't think of a better, more attractive, more charming place. And we know it'll be here for a very long time, if not forever. So I now have a very great pleasure in declaring this exhibition open.
There is the red seal referred to in Moira's.
If I put my hands over.
Yes, thank you. It shows up quite well, actually.
Is that all right?
Yes, fine. Zooming in to where we're going. Whoa, a bit fast. Where is it? Platform 3, it's lovely.